is the only thing stopping us from achieving our dreams, and we only fear what we don't understand, then the antidote to fear is knowledge. All we have to do is find out who has the knowledge that we need to conquer our fears and achieve our entrepreneurial dreams. My name is Callum Walker, and welcome to the podcast that will help you figure it out and conquer this lonely entrepreneurial journey.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking all about one specific way in which I use intermittent fasting for myself, and also you can use intermittent fasting for your clients as a way to, and I don't like talking about it in terms of getting yourself back on track, in the meaning of the, oh my God, I've gone off track. Because especially with your clients, that can be real kind of destructive mentality that, you know, if they've had a pizza or something like that, that naturally it's almost like they've screwed everything up and then they have to purge themselves to make up for their sins of yesterday. So it's not coming at it through that lens, but it's more coming at it from a different lens. And I think that what I'm going to talk to you about today and how I use intermittent fasting also ties up with how this will also help with your clients' adherence. From the sense of what we really need to do is get them away from solely focusing on the results. Yeah. Now, of course, delivering a result is absolutely vital. Like, it's huge. Like, if we're not delivering results as coaches, then we might as well not be in this business. Do you know what I mean? But we've got to make sure that our clients are very clear in terms of like what we actually mean by a result. Because you might be working with a client from a weight loss point of view, and their main goal is to lose weight. Now, the problem that comes with that is that they probably weigh themselves every single day and their weight is fluctuating, and then they're like, oh my God, I'm not losing weight, and then they lose their nipples and everything's just like, oh my God, it's the biggest problem since sliced bread, and then they cause you loads of headaches, and then 2 weeks later, like 2 days later, they then lose 2 pounds. It's like, oh my God, everything's okay again now. It's all fine. It's all fine. Don't worry, everything's okay. And you're like, don't take me on that emotional roller coaster. But that's kind of, it can kind of be our fault, because the only way in which we're almost kind of measuring their success is through weight, but that comes from the only result that they're potentially invested in is their weight. Whereas what I've found with myself and also the clients who I had the most success with ever, they weren't focused on the weight as the result. They were focusing on how they felt. So it wasn't necessarily that they were driven by aesthetic purposes. They were actually driven by how they feel. So it's kind of like myself. I really don't give a shit kind of how I look. You know, I have to be in shape in some capacity. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was overweight and a nutritionist, like, you wouldn't take me seriously. Like, no one would listen to me. I mean, I did once get criticized by an 18-stone nutritionist. I just took my breath and went, we'll move on. But, you know, that I do have to keep myself in half decent nick for that purpose. But I don't train, I don't eat, I don't sleep for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't really bother me anymore. It did once upon a time, and the problem was it was just a very finite goal. Whereas now, the reason why I optimize my sleep, why I really optimize my food, why I really exercise and train, is for how I feel, and my ability to be able to regulate my emotions. So what's this got to do with fasting? Well, I think one tool that has been immensely powerful for me in being able to find this nice harmonious balance with my food, and to actually take any form of kind of like guilt away from my food, really has been harnessing intermittent fasting and using intermittent fasting on a regular basis. What do I mean by that? Well, so for example, last night I went for an Indian with my mum, my dad, my brother, my two uncles, who are like the Chuckle brothers. It's almost like the Adams family. Like, you know, we've got two cousin its. That's what they're like. If you ever met my Uncle Darren, you would definitely understand. He's more like Fester Adams, actually. Yeah, he really is. Man's a genius, though. Absolute genius, but he's like Uncle Fester. But anyway, coming back to it, every Wednesday we meet for an Indian. And it's such a lovely thing for me to do. I love it. I get to spend time with my mum and dad, with my uncles, with my bro. And Indian food is my favorite food. Now, I want to go to that restaurant and just have my order. I just want to have a chicken tikka madras. Well, it's actually a madras plus. Okay. What the fuck is a madras plus, Callum? Well, so I like my food really, really hot. And this specific Indian restaurant that we go to, they actually really do put the heat in their food. So typically, I've always used to go for a madras, but it was just never spicy enough for me. So I'd go for a vindaloo. So I'd have a vindaloo at most restaurants, but I go to this one, and my God, that vindaloo, oh my God, it's like I've got an alien in me the next day. Like, it is so hot. But their madras just isn't hot enough. So I said to them one day, I was just like, look, here's a lesson. If you don't ask, you don't get. I said, look lads, Farouk's the man who runs the show. I said, look, Farouk, okay, I really like a vindaloo, but your vindaloo's just a bit too hot. And I do like a madras, but it's not hot enough. I need a middle ground. And he goes, Mr. Callum, you want madras plus. So now my order is a chicken tikka madras plus with a bit of rice and some dal. Like, I fucking love lentils. I just love them. So that's my thing. Now, the only challenge with that is that I woke up this morning feeling pretty rough. Because when you're low carb on a regular basis, and also when you're not really eating seed oils regularly, you know, so they'll be cooking the food in sunflower oil. You become very sensitive to how you feel when you have a high amount of refined carbohydrate come back in, when you have a high amount of inflammatory oils come in. Like, I felt pretty shit, to be honest, when I woke up. Now, that's when my fasting comes in. I'm not thinking, oh my God, I've had a curry, I'm going to put 17 pounds on. Like, I'm not thinking that. What I'm thinking is, I feel like shit. I've elevated my insulin. And what I need to do is lower my insulin. Because if I lower my insulin, that will naturally lower levels of inflammation. That will then also start getting me back into a ketogenic state. My brain is going to start utilizing fatty acids and ketones again as its sources of fuel. Well, specifically the ketones, not fatty acids, but anyway, that's a lesson for another day. And I'll start to feel normal again. I also feel additionally bloated off the back of eating those foods. Intermittent fasting is a beautiful way of just being able to almost kind of like de-bloat, one could say. But yeah, it's not like, I don't feel like I'm punishing myself. I actually feel like I'm healing myself here. So using intermittent fasting as a way to really kind of get myself back on track is fantastic, and that's for me. But I use it in terms of getting myself back on track. It comes to the definition of what does back on track actually mean. Well, what track are you on? Well, the track that I'm on is very much focusing on how I'm feeling. Fasting has been such an amazing tool for me to utilize to elevate my cognitive performance. I did an episode on this. I think it was from Fog to Focus. That intermittent fasting is a beautiful way of being able to get rid of any form of that brain fog. I woke up with that brain fog. That brain fog is not particularly there anymore, and I'm able to, you know, produce podcast episode for you guys at a level that I'm really happy with. So yeah, it's a great, so for you as a tool, it is a fantastic way of just being able to reset. But then also for your clients, how I would love you to kind of see intermittent fasting is two kind of ways for them. The primary way I want you to see it is not the way that everyone else sees it. Everyone else just sees intermittent fasting as a way of creating calorie deficit, which it does do that. Yeah, it does. Why is that a problem anyway? It does do that. But specifically, I want you to kind of see it as what's happening when your client is fasting is you're bringing their insulin down And when we're bringing insulin down, what we're doing is we're effectively opening up the door to our fat reserves, because remember, insulin is the door to our fat reserves. We stimulate insulin, that door shuts. We bring insulin up, we bring insulin down, we open that door. So really, if you kind of look at it, last night, I elevated my insulin. How did I do that? I was having refined carbohydrates, and I was also having, some pretty heavy seed oils, which are naturally going to be inflammatory, and they're going to drive inflammation, which is going to drive insulin production. So naturally, last night I went to bed in a high insulin state. I want to get back into a low insulin state. For me, I want to get back into a low insulin state so my brain can start using ketones again. But for our clients, we want to get them back into a low insulin state so they can start burning fat again. Okay, so how I want you to see it is that your goal with your clients is to consistently just get them into a low insulin state, practicing insulin lowering strategies. So I don't want you to see fasting as a calorie lowering strategy. It's an insulin lowering strategy. That's the purpose of it in this world. If you really, really want to get amazing results with your client that are long-term and sustainable, you do it this way. But then the second thing is, let's look at it through the lens that everyone likes to look at fasting from. Oh, the only reason it works is because it creates a calorie deficit. Okay, well, I'll humor you for a second. Because even if that was the only thing it did, why is that a bad thing? Because it's such an easy way to create a calorie deficit. So let's say you have a client, for example, and the only thing you tell them to do and the only thing you change is that you tell them to bin off breakfast, okay? And let's say their breakfast is 500 kcals. Well, if they're in an additional 500 kcal deficit off the back of practicing intermittent fasting, which is really easy, because right now I'm not hungry, okay? I am not hungry. So I am naturally fasting because I'm not hungry. So I've naturally binned off 500 kcals this morning. If I do that every single day, so the only thing I did was not eat breakfast, and my goal is to lose weight, it's not for me, but let's say hypothetically, your client, your goal is to lose weight, that's 182,000 calories over a year that they have saved just from binning off breakfast. That's 52 pounds. That's 52 pounds of body fat. You do that for 2 years, that's 104 pounds. I guarantee you ain't gonna have many clients who've got 104 pounds to lose. And if you do, well, they'll do it easily, just don't have breakfast. But it's also just such a fabulous way of getting back on track, because when you've gone and eaten some shit and you feel inflamed, and then you go and do some fasting and you don't feel inflamed, you don't feel tired, you come back to neutral, your brain is kind of like working in a way that is clear, and you don't feel additionally hungry, you then want to continue this. It's like, oh, okay, right now I feel good. I'm feeling better minute by minute, just off the back of not having any form of food and just hydrating myself. Which then means that I want to continue this feeling. And I continue this feeling by staying on track with my health and fitness journey. That is how intermittent fasting can really, really level up your clients' adherence. It can level up how they feel from a results point of view, but then also for yourself, it's a really lovely way of being able to still get that balance. So I don't have any form of guilt around having some rice and some lentils and a curry last night. I was able to just be purely present with the people that I love and have a fabulous time. Never forget, if every one of your clients gave you just one new business, fucked it. If every one of your clients gave you just one new client, you have doubled your business